morning, everyone. This is Jessica Giaquinto. I'm here to do my second review. The one I've chosen to do today is actually from a video game from the Telltale series. It's the Batman Telltale game, Season 1. I plan to do Season 2 at a later time when I actually finish the game. But just to preface this, I am a big Batman nerd. I've loved the cartoon series, the movies, and I've read several of the comics. Majoritively of my Batman knowledge comes from the movies and from the various video games. And this one was one that I had seen when it was still kind of coming out with all of the episodes. Because of course, Telltale games are episodic, so what they do is that 9 times out of 10 they'll give you the first episode for free, and then they will allow you to purchase the other episodes once they have been released. Now, I did wait until all the episodes were actually out. I got to play all of them back to back. I'm going to break this up because of the fact that video games and movies have different things that you can actually critique on. I'm going to do first the story, then the mechanics of the game. So I'm going to start off with the pros and cons of the story. Pro number 1, engaging story. The best thing that I like about this is that it has such a strong backstory to it that you only really need to know the basics of the character, and then this one just runs off with you into a different Batman lore. And it is a roller coaster ride from beginning to end. Pro number 2, which is twists around every corner. The best thing about this game is that it never stalemates. Yeah, there are parts that are a little slow, mostly when you actually have to control Bruce. But for the most part, those moments are very few and far between. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and you find yourself going like, what can they possibly throw at me next? From chapter to chapter. And there's a total of 5 chapters in the entire game, but each one builds off of the previous one and just keeps making it go bigger and bigger and bigger until you finally get to the end. And the resolution is, in a way, bittersweet, but it's much better than some results that you can get. Pro number 3, which is fresh plot ideas. With Batman, because it has been around for so long, it's really hard to take iconic characters such as Bruce Wayne and keep it fresh. So what they have done is that they have created a narrative story that is just amazingly put together, which Telltale is known for. They're known for their great storytelling. Now, that then leads me into the one and only con that I could think of for the actual story, which is some of the choices don't mean anything. Now, what I mean by this is that because it's kind of a choose-your-own-adventure kind of game, you get to choose some of your characters' responses. Now, the problem is that there are some that do have overarching connections, so depending on what you do in Chapter 1 could change things in Chapter 3. But there are a lot of choices that make no difference, which then kind of makes you question, it's like, okay, what choices actually do matter? It does tell you at the end of the game, like end of each chapter, which choices are actually marked. They basically tell you a percentage of players who have played this game and did the same response as you, and the percentage of people that did a different response. But it's usually about 5 or 6 big decisions that you have to make that will change how the story goes, which is kind of like life, where certain big decisions actually change your course. It would have been nice for it to be a little bit more notice of when these particular things happen. Like a couple of them that you can really tell it's like this is going to make a big impact in the story, but they always give you this notification in the top. It's like this person will remember that, or this person won't forgive you for this, and it doesn't have any correlation to whether or not the person's actually going to carry that over. I played at least up to Chapter 2 on my second playthrough, because I've already played the game all the way through, but I wanted to try to play it again with different responses, and I got basically the same story, even though I was doing different responses. Now, the big change is, yeah, that made a grander change. But for the most part, the little majority of the choices that you make don't hold true to the entire game. Now, onto the mechanics of it. Now, this is something that I always really kind of peg a game on. If the mechanics are complicated or buggy or anything like that, I will always nitpick for it. And that's something as a gamer that I particularly look in games. It's like if the mechanics to me make no sense, I'm not going to play them because I'm going to get frustrated. So the pros I'm going to start with is, first off, story heavy. This is not a game for people who like a lot of action that they control. This is a lot of cinematicness. It plays out more like a movie. Well, in this case, it plays more like a comic book because it is drawn and animated in the way that comic books are. So that was a really cool thing. And a lot of the Telltale games do the same thing. To my knowledge, I think all of them actually do the cel-shaded style of art, which is great because those are amazingly done. For someone who is such a story nerd, I love this kind of game. I do love games that have complicated, or not really complicated, but have good button combinations that I have to use to kind of work my way through the game, but I also enjoy a game that basically takes that away a little bit and lets you enjoy the story versus worrying about what buttons you're pushing. So I like that little bit of, here, let's give you an experience kind of thing. Onto my other pro, which is easy controls. Basically, it only involves you pressing either, because I played on the PS4, either triangle, square, X, or circle, depending on what your response was going to be, because it would read it out. It would have a timer on it for the majority of them. There's only like a handful of them that I can think of that don't have a time limit, but for the most part, most of the responses have a time limit that you have to press it in a certain amount of time. And then for the action sequences, it's quick time events. So it's like, push this button now. You have a limited time to do it. You do have to kind of be paying attention and have your controller in hand. You can't just set it on the side and grab some popcorn, which is great if you want to watch it on like YouTube or something with the various people who have done playthroughs of this. But if you're playing it yourself, you kind of want to have the controller nearby. Now, those are the only two pros that I could think of for the mechanics. I have a couple of nitpicky mechanic cons, and the first one is glitches. Telltale is notorious for their glitches. The first game that I actually played from Telltale was The Wolf Among Us, and I had played it on the Xbox 360. And literally the first QuickTime event I came to, the game froze at the start of the QuickTime event, and then started back up after I was supposed to have clicked something, and it killed me instantly. Every single time. And this was the first time I'd ever picked up a Telltale game, so I was like, miffed. So what I did was, I turned it in, got the PS3 version of that game, which I'm planning on getting the PS4 version so that I can play it on my new system. It ran so much smoother, but on certain games, it still lags. And I don't know if that's from a design aspect of the fact that they're pumping these things out as quickly as they can get the episodes out, so they don't have time to really do bug fixes. But it is something that I see perpetually throughout the Telltale series of games. The next con I have is issues with connecting to the sequel, which is The Enemy Within. Now, this was more of something I'll talk about when I do my review of Enemy Within, but this was something that really bugged me when it came to actually starting up Enemy Within. Because the cool thing is that you can take your save data from Season 1 and have all your choices be brought over into Season 2. But I had to go through such a rigmarole to actually get it to connect. It took me like 4 or 5 tries to finally get it to work. That it's like, why? Why do I need to do all of this frickin' work just to get a core piece of your game to work? So I was like, okay, fine. It finally worked, so I started that one. I've only finished the first episode on it, but so far it's really, really good, still. Con number 3, game freezing at choice screens. Now this one was, I'm not sure if it's specific to my copy of it or if anyone else has had this particular issue, but when I would make a choice, more specifically like the QuickTime events, it would freeze and then it would actually go through. So it got really nerve-wracking of whether or not I actually pushed the right button. It also, more specifically on another Telltale title, which is Tales from the Borderlands, it would freeze during the loading screens. Because, of course, you gotta have loading screens for it to load up the next part of the chapter. But it would freeze for an ungodly amount of time. It would be about a 10-minute wait for load times to finish, and then for it to actually get the game going. So it got really annoying really quick, but again, it might just be my copy of it. But if anyone has had these same kind of problems, just let me know. Because I want to make sure I'm not alone in this. And that's my basic review for Batman Telltale games. If I had to give it a rating, I would definitely say that this is worth an A-. The A- part is it's a really good game for people who are story driven. It's not good for people who need a lot of action. My husband is very much the person who, he doesn't like the Telltale games. He loves the story, but he feels like he should be doing more. So if you're the type of gamer who needs to be actually controlling the action, this is not the game series for you, my friend. I'm sorry. But for someone who loves story, who doesn't want to be bogged down by controls and really complicated things like that, then this is a game series for you. And again, I give this an A-. It's great story, but just a few mechanical issues that just tend to be spread out over the various Telltale series. Now, I do want to make a couple announcements. First off, I am very close to finishing up edits for my book series Stand Up Fight Back, and I will be putting it onto pre-order coming sometime in October. I'm hoping to have it completely out and ready by then. And I will put all the links in the description below for where you can find my social media posts here. I will be posting on Instagram of my bullet journal that I've just started to help keep myself kind of more scheduled, because as you could probably tell from the lateness of this video, I'm very scatterbrained at times. So I'm going to make sure that I get all this out for you so that you can enjoy it and basically feel like you know me a little bit better. So again, thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate everyone taking the time out and being patient with me. As you can see, my background has changed. We did paint our room and rearrange it. I will probably be changing to another setting once I get that all squared away. But again, I hope you all have a wonderful day, keeping fabulous, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!